On a subzero night in Missoula, a Vietnamese American night shift clerk rescues a Rocky's bobcat kit that shouldn't survive the cold, only to discover it moves with eerie precision, wards off danger with a cavernous growl, and carries DNA anomalies no one can explain. As attention tightens, neighbors, rangers, cameras, she must choose between answers and the quiet duty of protection. Reserve Street after midnight hummed in sodium orange. The neon over Pump 6 sizzled, a lonely insect against the cold. Lena tugged her knit beanie down, the chin-length black bob already slick with frost, breath unspooled in white ribbons. Her deep brown eyes drifted across the empty lane, the dumpster, the chain-link fence. Then she heard it, not wind, a paper-thin rasp, a thread of need. She crossed the ploughed ridge and crouched. Under the fence, in a shallow cave of dirty snow, a small body shivered. Tufted ears, black-tipped, a winter ruff trembling, grey rust coat with light, spaced rosettes along the flanks, a stub tail, dark bar on top, pale beneath. The eyes lifted, amber with a greenish cast, and tried to hold focus. Dark paw pads pressed into the ice. The sound came again, smaller now. "You're not supposed to be here," she whispered. Protocol tried to climb into her throat. She swallowed it. She peeled off a glove. Her fingers were split from cold, the pinky nail stained blue from pump logs. "Easy, nhoi," she said, soft out of habit. The kit touched her palm with its nose, direct and calm. Choice. She opened her oversized puffer and slid the heat of her chest around him. The winter ruff tickled her collarbone. The world narrowed to breath. His, a quick bellows, hers, a deliberate count. Far behind that, another rhythm, the remembered tick of a lab clock, the hawk striking the wrong pain, the pen scratching the wrong release time, her signature laid over the lie. "Only tonight," Lena said. "Only tonight, and then we figure it out." The kit's stub tail tapped once against her wrist. She locked the store, lights to dim. The stairwell up to her studio smelled like wet metal and old dust. Boots thudded past Eleanor Pike's door. The brass mail slots winked and went still. "Sorry," Lena breathed to no one. Another flight. Keys rattled. The knob stuck, then yielded. Inside, the baseboard heater ticked awake. She laid the bundle on the quilt, eased the zipper back. Whiskers glittered in neon spill. "Hi," she said, almost laughing. "I'm here. We're warm. We're okay." The eyes gathered a quiet inner sheen. She spread an old towel near the heater and slid a shallow bowl within its heat halo. The kit didn't drink. He watched, unblinking, silence. If the wild was a door, tonight it didn't close. It followed her upstairs. Morning prints itself in pale stripes across the studio. Thin light slipping through the blinds and pooling around the baseboard heater. The radiator ticks like an old metronome. Lena wakes to warmth against her ribs and the soft weight of the oversized puffer where she bundled him last night. Her chapped hands, blue-inked pinky, fine fur, dense at the ruff, cold at the tips of the ear tufts. "Good morning, Ember," she murmurs, not yet a name, more a temperature. The kit lifts his face. Those amber eyes rimmed with a greenish seam sip the heater's glow and return it as a quiet inner sheen. Lena swings her legs out of bed. The floor is cold, her breath ghosts. She crosses to the galley counter and nudges a chipped mug toward the kettle. The kit follows, moving the way falling water thinks, clean, precise, wasted nothing. He hops to the counter, threads between her wrists and the mug's porcelain lip, and never touches it. The mug trembles, he does not. "That's not normal," she says, smiling despite it. "And please don't be normal." Keys skitter from her hoodie pocket, bounce once, and disappear under the oven. She sighs. Of course. Before she bends, the kit drops to the linoleum, lowers his chin, and angles his forepaws into the dark. A tap, then another. The key ring rolls out and kisses her ankles. He looks up, waiting, not proud, not asking. You helped, Lena whispers, surprised by the catch in her own voice. Thank you. Someone's boots creak on the stairwell outside. The sound isn't loud, but her heartbeat spikes anyway. The kit glides to the doorway, plants himself between her and the hall, and stills, shoulders squared, tail, stub ticking one slow beat. Lena freezes, kettle hissing behind her. The steps pass. Silence settles like dust. He returns and touches one paw to her wrist, exactly where her pulse shows. The warmth is feather-light. Her breath remembers how to be slow. She pours milk into a shallow saucer, sets it in the heater's halo. He doesn't lunge. He considers, places a paw against the bowl's edge to stop the drift, then drinks. No splash, no urgency. Like someone working with small instruments. Who taught you that? Lena asks. The kit lifts his wet chin, listening without blinking. I'm not scared, she tells him, then corrects herself. I am, but I'm here. The kettle clicks off, a soft punctuation, and in the hush, she feels her heartbeat answer his. Just for now. It wasn't obedience, it was choice. Knocking rattled the door at mid-morning, 3 polite taps that still felt like a test. Lena froze, finger midway to the heater dial. The kit halted too, a small, breathing comma at her ankle. She cracked the door. Eleanor Pike stood on the landing with a steaming mug cupped in hand-knit mittens. Fine silver braids disappeared beneath a beanie. Reading glasses rode low on the bridge of her nose. Winter light burnished the deep umber of her cheekbones, the squared, trail-shore set of her shoulders. Busted pipe downstairs again, Eleanor said, breath fogging. You hear it last night? Sounded like a bad song. Just the heater, Lena answered. I was asleep. The lie came trimmed and tidy. Steam lifted and drifted into the studio, blurring edges. From the shadow of Lena's dark pant leg, the bobcat looked out. Ear tufts, motionless, amber-green eyes studying the older woman as if measuring wind. He didn't hiss, didn't hide, only watched. Eleanor's sentence thinned. Well now. She softened her stance, not stepping in. New cat. Fostering, Lena said, holding the frame with her shoulder. Only for a little while. The mug creaked in Eleanor's grip. Ha. Her gaze flicked past Lena, catching on the thrifted bookshelf, the folded blankets, the shallow bowl set square in the heater's warm halo. The smell of metal and milk lent its own testimony. The kit shifted closer, fur brushing denim, tail stub ticking once. He set no paw, he set presence. I brought extra towels, Eleanor said, the offer appearing with an embarrassed laugh. Pipes sweat, floors get slick. She angled a glance toward the row of brass mail slots down the hall, the one with a rubber-banded parcel that never moved. Some things are best kept dry. Lena felt her jaw loosen. Thank you, she said. I'm careful. I can see that. Eleanor lifted the mug in a half-toast. Holler if you need anything, or if you don't. Either way. The door eased toward its latch. Lena listened to Eleanor's careful steps descend, the fabric whisper of mittens against a rail. She pressed her palm flat to the wood. Some doors are louder when they stay closed. Night pooled in the studio like cold ink. The baseboard heater ticked. From the TV, a forecast murmured about lake effect and black ice. Lena sat cross-legged on the quilt, puffer draped around her shoulders, the kit asleep in the hollow of her lap. She let her fingers rest in the thick winter ruff and felt the small engine of his breath. A sound underneath the forecast made her head lift, metal against metal, a hollow clatter that did not belong to pipes. She muted the TV. The silence that followed felt deliberate, as if someone were listening back. Then came the scrape, slow, testing, at the back stair. "Probably nothing," she whispered, as if words could make it true. The kit opened his eyes. The inner sheen caught the dark and held it. The first hit snapped the latch plate. The door shuddered, wood popping like ice. A second hit bowed the jamb, and a third spilled the lock across the floor. The door flew inward. Two figures surged through, hoods up, boots wet with melt. One carried a crowbar, the other held a knife that flashed TV blue even in mute light. Lena couldn't find her voice. Her body found stillness. The kit moved before fear could. He slid from Lena's lap and went low, a clean line of muscle and intent. No warning. Just motion, the kind that chooses angles over distance. "Grab the bag," the crowbar said, voice muffled. The knife advanced, blade held high. That was the mistake. The kit launched. The growl that came from him did not fit his bones. It tunneled the room, a subterranean note that touched the ribs. He rode the crowbar's arc with one paw, landed clear, and cut through the knife man's reach at a diagonal, jaws closing on the soft hinge between thumb and wrist. The blade clanged, skittered under the radiator, ringing against iron. "Jesus, what's that?" the crowbar shouted, stepping back. The knife man cradled his hand. Eyes locked to the kit's unblinking focus. In the heater glow, the eyes seemed to hold a second, quieter fire. "Out!" the knife man gasped. "Out! Now!" They backed for the hall, shoulders colliding in their hurry. The kit matched them step for step without rushing, the growl still rumbling, the stub tail ticking its single beat. The door banged the wall, boots thundered down the stairs, then broke into the parking lot's frozen emptiness. Silence returned so quickly the heater seemed loud. Lena's knees trembled, her hair stuck in dark threads to her temple. "Hey!" she managed, voice a frayed string. "Hey! Ember!" He turned away from the empty doorway and came to her, light on his paws. He set one paw on her wrist, exactly where the blood ran fast, and the growl faded to a breath. Lena exhaled like she had been underwater. "I've got you," she said, and only then heard her own heart. Fear left first, then the men. Only the question stayed. Blue and red strobed the snow outside, washing the studio in aquarium light. The door hung crooked on one hinge, a splinter of paint curled like a fingernail. The heater ticked. The air smelled of cold metal, damp drywall, and a thin electric thread from the broken latch. The bobcat, calm now, stood with his chest to Lena's shin, listening as if sound had weight. A pair of officers took notes without looking at the floor, saying sentences that floated and never landed. "We'll increase patrols." "You did the right thing calling." Probably opportunists. Their pens moved, their eyes slid past the shallow bowl by the heater, past the towel, warmed to a soft oval. Lena answered with quiet yeses. They left behind a card and a suggestion to replace the lock. When the stairwell fell back to silence, Ember returned to the bed and to Lena's breathing. He stepped onto the quilt, onto her pulse, and set one paw over her wrist. The weight was light as a coin, the meaning wasn't. Breath in, breath out. Her hands steadied. The shake retreated to her elbows and then farther, like tide. She studied him in the dim. Winter rough, neat rosettes, ear tufts alert, but no longer bristled. The eyes, amber with that ghost of green, gathered the heater glow and held it without blinking. "You knew what to do," she said, the words small and reverent. He did not answer. He stayed. Lena rose, pressed the door back into its buckled frame, and slid a chair under the knob. On the frosted window, a single oval marked where his breath met the glass, and melted moon shape. She gently touched it with fingers. "I'm here," she told him, then softer. "I won't let anyone take you." The promise surprised her with how right it felt, as if she had practiced for years. She hadn't saved a life had claimed hers. Snow spit along reserve as Lena drove, the door patched with duct tape. She'd wrapped the kit in a thrifted towel, set the carrier on the passenger floor where heater air pooled. He rode silent, eyes steady on her profile, as if reading the tremors in her jaw. "We're just checking," she said. "No one gets to keep you but you." The studio's breathmark on the window rode with her like small permission. The clinic smelled of iodine and boots. A shepherd in a cone watched them pass, then looked away first. The receptionist slid a clipboard forward. Lena's chapped fingers hovered over the line for species. She printed nothing, handed the pen back with a faint, apologetic smile. "Naya can see you," the woman said, as if recognizing a kind of emergency that doesn't belong on forms. Dr. Naya Patel opened the exam room door with her shoulder, balancing a tray. Wavy black hair tied low, round frames catching light, a small bronze nose ring centered above a smile. Earth-toned sweater beneath a lab coat, a voice that arrived warm and unhurried. "Hi, Lena. Let's keep things quiet and kind," she said, closing the door on the world. Naya crouched eye level with the carrier. The kit didn't retreat. He watched her the way wind watches grass. "May I?" She opened the grate a hand's width. He stepped out, precise as a hinge. Naya tipped his upper lip with a gloved finger. "Canines, knife fine for this age." Stethoscope bell to chest. Her brows nudged. "Strong heart, not fast, strong." She rolled each shoulder, tested elbows, flexed wrists, then rotated a hind leg through a range Lena had only seen on rehab videos. "Joints, unusually loose and clean," Naya murmured, not to frighten so much as to file the observation in air. The kit tolerated all of it, then calmly placed a paw on Lena's wrist where it rested on the table. Naya noticed, said nothing, softened. Naya prepped a syringe. "Tiny pinch," she warned, voice low. Red rose into the barrel, glossy against the grey winter light dragging through blinds. She labelled the tube, hesitated only a breath, then set it in a rack. "We'll run a panel I use for hybrids and odd rescues. It may tell us little. If people hear, they'll call it protection." Lena listened to the heater's hush, and to the silence in the kit's body. "If it says he doesn't fit," she asked. "Then we treat what he is, an animal who chose you," Naya said. "Sometimes the safest place has locks no one can see." Dusk found the Clark Fork, pale as tin. Sandbars stitched with thin ice that chimed when water breathed beneath. Lena kept to the cottonwoods, beanie low, hands buried in the puffer's sleeves. The kit skimmed beside her boot, a small intentional ghost. Kids on the path had chalked end zones, a scuffed ball arced, caught, arced again. When the sun finally slid behind Hellgate Canyon, the world turned violet blue, light that put secrets on the surface. Ember paused. His amber eyes took the dusk like a cup and offered it back with a banked gleam. One boy slowed, forearm draped over the ball. "Yo, did you see that?" A girl stepped forward, mittens curled at her chin. "He's glowing. Not neon, not trick, just the kind of shine lenses love." A phone appeared, then another, white screens lighting cheeks. Jace Moreno slid into view from the trail bend, denim jacket faded to ash, camera slung from a loom-woven strap. His brown eyes were composing. The dimples came with his hello. Crazy sky. He let the lens hang a moment. Then lighter. Mind if I grab a few shots? People would want to see a bobcat out here, moving like that. Lena drew her beanie lower. No. The word came soft but firm. He's not content. Jace rocked back on his heels, weighing it. The kids hovered by the sideline, phones half raised. Ember stepped to the inside of Lena's shin and stilled, tail ticking once, eyes dimming to ordinary amber, as if he too chose the smaller light. "Look," Jace said, palms open. "Last year I posted a nest pin. It turned into a circus. I don't do that anymore." He glanced at the kids, then back to the bobcat. "I could frame it as distance, fur and river, no face." The camera stayed low, unfired. "People will want this," he said. "I don't," Lena answered. "Not like that." A kid bounced the ball. Play resumed. Jace capped his lens and nodded. "Okay, no story." Ember leaned into her calf, a choice pressed into bone. Some stories only live if they're not told. Dawn found them above town where the pines begin, the air a glass that could break. Frost crystals lifted off the bunch grass as the first sun nicked them. Each blade steamed, then went still. Lena parked at the turnoff and chose the narrow trail no one plows, a ribbon of packed snow that wound between ponderosa trunks. "Quick look," she told him, easing the beanie over her ears. "Then home." The kit trotted, silent as shadow, stubtail ticking like a second hand. They had the mountain to themselves until they didn't. The warning came as a braid of smells, musk, wet iron, stale trash, on wind that turned her breath sharp. 3 shapes unstitched from the trees, gaunt dogs with ribs like slats, 2 brindle, 1 white-faced and scarred. They fanned into a crescent that closed the trail behind them. "Back off," Lena said, too loud for the quiet. Her voice made white flags of her breath. The dogs lowered their heads. Snow squeaked under their toes. Ember dropped low. Not a crouch for fear, a calculation. Shoulders loose, hips loaded, head slightly off-center. He did not face the white dog head-on. He pivoted to the left, drawing a thin line in the powder with 1 neat paw. The tail ticked once, twice. The first dog lunged, expecting something straight. It met an absence. Ember was not there. He was outside the dog's shoulder, a knife of motion. The lunge snapped at air and pulled the dog long. A sound rose from the kit, deep, a cave's drum, too large for his ribs, rolling through trunks, back. The brindle flanked, then stuttered, thrown by unearned sound. "Easy, Ember," Lena said, though she didn't mean for him. "Please," she tried to the dogs, palms out. "Go on, go." The white-faced one tested again, smaller this time. Ember carved through its reach on a diagonal and wrapped the ankle with a precise check. No hold, just proof. The dog yelped, not from pain, but from being measured. Momentum bled out of the pack. Tails shifted lower. The growl settled to a vibration you could feel in boot soles. "Leave us," Lena said, voice shaking but clear. "We're not food." The nearest brindle blinked first. The white-faced dog angled away, ears flicking to the drum that had become the mountain's pulse. One by one they turned, melting into the pines, trotting that uncertain trot of animals recalculating. Silence returned, not quite the same shape. Lena's knees went weak. She sat on a sun-veined granite slab, hands on thighs to stop them buzzing. The kit came to her without victory, only breath. He stepped into her lap, rough, brushing her damp hair. She held his weight and felt her heart step back into rhythm. "Thank you," she said, small and true. He pressed his paw to her wrist as if to say, "Breathe here. Predators don't always hunt. Sometimes they choose." Evening bled lilac through the blinds. The heater ticked. The studio smelled faintly of pine from the bough Lena had wired above the bowl. Her phone buzzed across the counter. Naya P. She answered on the second ring. "I have your panel," Naya said, voice low, steady. "It doesn't line up." "With what?" Lena asked. "Not domestic, not a clean bobcat profile either. 2 loci flagged as unknown signature." The hybrid screen threw alerts and then had nowhere to send them. Paper rustled. His canines and musculature already told that story. The blood just refuses a label. So what does anomalies mean? It means a box the world will want to open. A pause. "I won't name him anything he didn't choose by living. But Lena, be careful who sees him." Curiosity arrives wearing a badge that says protection. Lena watched the kit near the heater halo. His amber-green eyes caught the glow and offered it back, a small, banked coal. "If anyone asks," she said. "He's not here," Naya answered. "And I never said he was." Breath in the receiver, then softer. "I altered a timeline once to give a wolf dog a chance. There are locks you can't see. Avoid them." They hung up. The silence afterward moved like weather. Ember stepped to her, placed one paw on her wrist, and the room came back into one piece. Her phone chimed again. Jace, heads up. New trail cams going in at Walnut and along Blue Mountain Spur. A photo followed, laminated notice on a ranger board, additional camera monitoring, wildlife health survey. He called before she typed. "Low glow IR, motion plus audio," Jace said, voice apologetic. "Some units bait with peanut butter scent, some with feather spinners, a few run prey distress at night. They'll see more than deer." "Are they pointed at the trail?" Lena asked. "Angles to the creek crossings and pullouts. Also alleys behind the station districts. They're trying to catch cougars moving through town." He exhaled. "Cole's in the loop. I'm not touching anything. I learned my lesson." "Please don't point anything at us," Lena said. "I won't. Make yourselves boring." A beat. "And if you can, leave no pattern. Cameras love patterns." Lena looked at the door's mended scar, felt the pen from years ago in her fingers again. Heard glass and a hawk's body hitting the wrong open space. "He isn't a study," she said. "Then keep him uninteresting," Jace murmured. "Disappear by being ordinary." She drew the curtains early. Outside, a gull arrowed over reserve, white as a flash. If the forest learns you, it also learns to watch you. Midday turned the stairwell the color of dishwater snow. At the brass mail slots, Eleanor cupped a rubber-banded parcel in both mittens, glasses slipping toward the end of her nose as she read a name she didn't say. Her shoulders held the trail-strong stillness. "Brought you a door brace," she said, lifting an oak wedge. "Better than a chair." Lena took it. "You didn't have to." "I like to," Eleanor said. "Some fixes you can hold. The rest—" She glanced at the parcel, thumbs smoothing the paper. "The rest you keep sealed until you're ready." Ember waited just inside, heater light striping his ruff. He didn't show. He listened. Tail ticking once. Eleanor tracked the quiet, then lifted her face. "You won't hear anything from me," she said. "Not about cats that look like commas, not about midnight." Lena's throat worked. "Thank you." "Use the back stair a while," Eleanor added. "Rangers are posting more signs." When Eleanor's steps faded, Ember touched Lena's wrist, pulse to pulse, the wedge seated tight. For a minute, ordinary felt like armor. Boots clacked below. Ranger Cole Whitman rose between rails, pressed coyote brown uniform, ash blonde crop, freckles dusting a nose pinched by cold. Grey-blue eyes narrowed in the kind way that still counts things. "Ms. Pham," he said, pausing on the landing. "We're logging wildlife near reserve. Anyone feeding strays? Seeing small predators after dark? Lena kept her hand where the paw rested. I work nights. I mostly see coffee. Cole smiled. Fair. Any unusual sounds? Distress calls? Trail cam teams are mapping patterns. Only pipes? Lena said. And people who don't knock. He studied the swollen jam, then her face. If something needs help, call me before the internet does. I will, she said, meaning more and less. He tipped his cap. Appreciate it. The stairwell swallowed his steps. Outside, a wind gust combed the pines. The mail slots clicked once and went still. Ember's tail ticked once, then stopped. Lena slid the wedge home and breathed. Questions are traps when the answers don't belong to you. Lena began with the corners, the places the cold kept. She laid earth-tone blankets in a crescent near the baseboard heater, then wired 2 pine boughs above to throw a shadow that felt like branches. The water bowls sat in the radiant halo not too close. She folded a towel double where the floorboard seam always breathed a draft. The studio changed temperature without the thermostat moving. Home, she told him, smoothing the nap of the blanket. Ember stepped in, turned once with surgical economy, and settled. In the quiet, the heater ticked, and resin from the boughs loosened a scent that remembered morning trails. From that night, she revised their hours. Walks happened at times no one wanted, grey pre-dawn, noon when the wind knifed, a last circuit after the bar's clatter died. Curtains closed at dusk, a simple choreography, patterns dissolved. She timed her steps to his, learning the way he chose angles, letting him guide the space between moving and still. He kept to his rituals too. When the stairwell creaked, he stationed at the door and measured silence. When Lena's thoughts sprinted, he found her wrist with one paw and anchored it to breath. "I'm here," she would murmur, not needing to say for whom. Eleanor appeared with a thrifted draft snake for the sill. "This keeps winter from learning your room," she said, glasses low, mittens bright. She did not look past the door frame. Lena touched the knitted length and the unopened parcel Eleanor always carried. "Some things stay sealed," Lena said. Eleanor nodded, as if a trail sign had been read correctly. On Sunday, Jace arrived with a dented thermos steaming cinnamon. His denim jacket held the day's pale dust. The loom-woven strap crossed his chest. Camera at his hip, like a habit he was trying to break. "For thawing hands," he said, dimples appearing. His thumb brushed the record button, then stopped. He slipped the camera off, set it lens down on the mat. "I'm not filming," he said, voice small but exact. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry for the other night," wanting the story more than the animal. Lena poured the tea into chipped mugs. "Thank you for not turning him into a clip," she said. Ember watched from the den, eyes amber flat, not curious, not afraid. Jace caught the look and smiled without teeth. "He doesn't need an audience." They talked like people who have both learned consequences. Jace described the new cam placements he'd seen go up, how rangers think in grids. "Make your life look like static," he said. "Noise is invisible." He lifted the thermos, apology, living in the soft at his cheeks. When he left, the studio felt truer to its smallness. Lena sat on the floor beside the den. "I kept asking what you are," she told Ember. He stepped across the blankets and placed his paw on her wrist, pulse to pulse. "That isn't the question," she said, feeling the answer arrive. "Who you are needs care. That's all." The heater ticked twice, as if agreeing. She stopped looking for a label and started keeping a promise. Violet dusk pooled over the San Francisco peaks. A hush laid across town like fleece. On the narrow balcony, Lena leaned her elbows on the cold rail, beanie low, breath rising in soft ladders. Ember stood beside her heels, small as a shadow cast by a warmer fire. Streetlights clicked alive along Reserve. Neon from the station soaked the snow a watered pink. "Almost quiet," she said. He watched the wind tease a plastic pennant above Pump 6, then turned to the horizon. The amber of his eyes took the last light and folded it to a patient ember. Inside, the baseboard heater ticked through the wall, counting seconds no one needed. Eleanor's steps creaked past below. She paused at the mail slots, one mitten resting on a rubber-banded parcel. She didn't look up. She didn't open it. "Night, upstairs," she called, easy as trail talk. "Night, downstairs," Lena answered, letting the words warm the air between them. Somewhere a gull crossed the river, a pale dash in the deepening blue. The studios smelled faintly of pine, resin loosened with heat. Lena crouched, set her palm along Ember's ruff, and felt the knit of winter fur, the neat rosettes behind his ear. "You didn't need me to explain you," she said. "You needed room." He blinked, then lifted one paw and placed it on her chest, right over the steady thud behind her coat. She held it there with her hand, the way you might hold a promise that knows its own weight. His paw was warm. Her breath slowed. "I'll keep you safe," she told him, "even from my questions." Below, Jace walked by with his camera zipped in its bag, head tipped back to watch the sky go indigo. He lifted a hand in salute without stopping, then disappeared around the corner. Ordinary swallowed him, and the street did not change. Cole's truck rolled past later, tires hissing on grit. He glanced up, saw a woman on a balcony with a small animal tucked near her boots, saw nothing to report, and drove on. The town exhaled. Lena touched the faint ink stain on her pinky nail, the last blue of a different winter. She couldn't unsign what she had signed, but she could sign something else each day. Feed, warm, choose. Ember pressed a little more weight into her hand, then settled at her ankle like punctuation. In another part of the night, a trail camera woke to motion and stitched a rectangle of grayscale. A creek, leafless willow, the thin white of breath. At the far right margin, two small coals hovered in brush, bright and quiet. The unit hummed, stamped the frame, waited for a caption that didn't arrive. Lena stood, lifted Ember, and rested her cheek against the winter ruff. "Home," she said. "Some miracles survive because someone chose not to ask for proof. Thank you for watching until the end. If this story touched your heart even a little, that's our greatest joy. If you'd like, please share your thoughts in the comments. We'll keep bringing you stories that stay with you, so please consider subscribing to the channel. See you in the next video.